Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all of you joining us from different places and time zones around the world. Welcome to the very first event of the inaugural Alpha Film Festival, a collaborative venture between Welt de Wonders, MILC Metaverse, and the international film reviews platform, The Film Verdict. My name is Ben Nicholson. I'm the Chief Shorts Reviewer for The Film Verdict and the Artistic Director here at Alpha Film Festival. And it gives me an inordinate amount of pleasure to finally throw the doors open so we can welcome you to this first event, a panel discussion about the next generation of the media industry, Film 3. Before I introduce this evening's guests, I just want to remind you all about the various other elements of the festival that we have going on. Inside the MILC Art Tower, you'll find the 12 films that make up our official selection. These are shorts that cover a range of styles, genres, and mediums, and that engage in myriad different ways with the primary festival theme for this year, the future. You can watch the films at any time until the festival ends on Tuesday, and we'd love for you to join in by voting for your favorites. Most popular film will be presented with the Alpha Film Festival's very first Audience Award. Each evening across the weekend, there will also be a live event available to stream between 6 and 9 p.m. UTC. Tonight, we have our Film 3 panel followed by a short program. Present is Prologue, filled with visions of the future that interact in different ways with their own pasts. Tomorrow, at the same time, will be a dialogue around AI and art, followed by a shorts program about the same topic, AI, which is called Behold This Strange Intelligence. And on Sunday, we'll have a conversation about interactive storytelling and new media, followed by a program of films made using gaming technology titled Kings of Infinite Space. As I mentioned, the theme for this year's festival is the future. And so it seemed only fitting that we kickstart our conversation series with a discussion about the potential futures of the film industry itself and Film 3. I'm going to quickly reel off the list of luminaries that we have joining us tonight, and then ask them to briefly introduce themselves and their work one by one before we kick off a more interactive conversation. So we have Miguel Faus, filmmaker and director of Caladita, the first ever European film funded via NFTs. We have Stephen Murray, writer, founder, and CEO of Bingeable. We have Genevieve Thiers, CEO of Entertainment. AJ Salmon, co-founder and VP Distribution at Entertainment. Sherry McCracken, producer and founder of Never Alone NFT. And last but not least, Jordan Bain, filmmaker, actress, and member of media collective The Squad. So I'm going to go around in that same order that I have here and just ask you to say a little bit about who you are and what the area that you work in. So Miguel, if we could start with you quickly.
Sorry, I was muted. Hey everyone, thanks for having me. I'm Miguel. I'm a screenwriter and director from Barcelona. And I'm right now in post-production of my first feature film, Caladita, which is the first European movie to be funded entirely by NFTs. And I'm very excited to be here as part of this film theory revolution that we're all building together.
Excellent. And Stephen?
Hi, Stephen Murray. I'm the founder and co-CEO of Bingeable. The concept behind Bingeable is something I've been working on for a long time. I've been in the entertainment industry since I was 19. Bingeable is designed to offer an alternative to independent filmmakers from the traditional theatrical release or selling to a streamer. What Bingeable does is we give the creators, everybody from the writers, directors, on-screen talent, bands that provide music for the soundtrack, all the way down to the grips and PAs, as well as influencers and fans. We give them all their own individual VOD channel connected directly to their social media so that they can close the gap between discovery of a project and consumption of the project. We describe Bingeable as a marketing platform where distribution is an organic result of the marketing. So we are going to be releasing our first 2 feature films this summer. We're going into production on our first fully financed, produced, marketed, and sold Bingeable original. And last but certainly not least, we've just announced last week a new joint venture with Decentralized Pictures that is called Next Wave Studios, and we have entered an agreement for funding for that joint venture with a group out of the UK, actually, and are looking to get into operations and start actually working that joint venture sometime late this summer.
Amazing. Sounds super exciting. Genevieve?
Hi guys, how are you? I'm Genevieve. I'm with entertainment.com. We are, I would say, marketplace builders. So the team at Entertainment is growing. And AJ Salmon on the call today has been with us since the beginning. Dan Ratner, our CTO, is also co-founder, and then Mark Vedic. So it's a really, really fun team over here. We're marketplace builders of 20 years. So our first company was SitterCity.com. We raised over $70 million, served 10 million users, thousands of companies, and sold to Bright Horizons in 2020. So I just came from NFT Paris. Like everyone was saying, it's 1996 again. It totally is. 1996 again. Like I remember back with Sitter City, we couldn't say the word .com for years, and then suddenly we could. And this is the same thing. So really excited to be back in tech. On the side, I've invested in 15 plus women in tech companies, do a ton of political work for women empowerment, but happy to be back with Entertainment. We are, working towards being the Netflix of Web3. So we essentially are a collaborative storytelling platform on the ETH chain that allows creators to sell tickets into the making of their work to fans and brands. And our creators can raise in USDC or ETH. We have 10 tests, one of which was totally successful. Crash Punks is done, raising. They raised 27,000 and they are screening their short on Entertainment. You can see it on our streamer, but we also have 8 more projects. And I'm happy to say we're over 20% of our ticket sales goals already for those, which is really nice. So lots to share, but I'll stop there. And it's an honor to be here today with this group.
Amazing. And I guess we best then to turn to AJ next.
There we go. We'll try this again. Just really humbled to be included with this esteemed panel. Been in media almost my entire life, since I was about 14. Again, AJ Salmon. I'm a producer, writer, and entrepreneur. As a co-founder of Entertainment, I'm running up kind of what we're calling our studio arm, which is mostly looking at procurement, development, and distribution. Marrying both a Film 3 strategy with traditional, and just really excited about where a Film 3 can go and what we can do to help creators get their story told and get their story sold. More so actually not sold, but maintain those rights and monetize and, build their community and move their community and have a say in their future, rather than, leaving it up to somebody behind a desk who grew up in a mailroom and just happens to be in the yes/no position in a studio. So really looking forward to the conversation and really excited for Film 3 and what it can do for creators.
Fantastic. Thank you. Sherry?
Hi, I'm Sherry McCracken, and happy to be here today. I started out with independent filmmaking about 15 years ago. Have always been a storyteller, was a professional photographer most of my life, along with being a corporate IT person. So when I saw the possibilities that blockchain had to offer, I really just jumped in and wanted to see what we could do to monetize our films. We had made 3 feature films in the past, received distribution, and have never made our money back. So I want to change that. Jumped in trying to see what we could do to do things differently back in 2018, and then found the squad a few years ago with Jordan and felt like I found my people. And hey, there's other people out there that are trying to figure out the same thing, and how can we do this together? And so in October, when Jordan ran the Film Summit, I thought, why not? Everybody's going out there that believes in this movement. We're all filmmakers. Let's make something together. So I came up with an idea called Never Alone, because I feel never alone anymore because of all the people I've found in this space. So I brought everybody together. We made a film in LA right after the summit, and we're about ready to premiere it. It's super exciting. And Never Alone is about testing out some of the ideas and assumptions that come along with Film 3. What is this? How can we be different? And how can we prove that we can be different and actually monetize for independent filmmakers? So Film 3, Jordan and company, let's go.
And then Jordan, I guess, is obviously to pass to you.
I guess that, yes, that leaves me. Well, Sherry, thank you. And I'm always humbled. I will start with that. I will start with how extraordinary it is to be talking about this thing called Film 3, which originated with me and the squad 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, when I started the original conversation about Web3 and film. And it was a barren landscape then. And that is a story within itself. So I will cut to the moment that Sherry started to come into the spaces that where we were talking, and then Miguel arrived on our sort of radar in January of last year, and we asked him to be one of our hosts immediately because we knew that he was going to do exceptional things. And then Stephen arrived, and I'm very, very grateful that Stephen is what I would call the head of the squad's Jedi Council. And then, yeah, we came up with this, what was already a movement. We termed just about a year ago Film 3, and within 6 weeks there were Film 3 panels at Cannes. You may have seen there was Film 3 on the Mountain, where Miguel won a very prestigious award from Steven Soderbergh and Decentralized Pictures. And it's been a pretty extraordinary journey these last couple of years. I started out as an actor, became a filmmaker, realized very sadly that when I had an Oscar run with my short film with Melissa Leo, that there were actually gatekeepers that were not interested in the stories that I had to tell as a woman, as a queer woman, even though I would not consider my stories queer stories. But still, there were plenty of gatekeepers that told me there wasn't an audience. And so at some point I got into crypto around 2015, and I really believed in the self-sovereignty and the ownership of IP, something else I know sort of plenty about, and realized that this could be revolutionary. But it wasn't until really probably November, December of 2020 that it started to hit me how revolutionary it would be. And then I started the conversation. So I am humbled again that we're actually having a Film 3 conversation, and how global this is. Stephen and I like to call this the next wave of cinema, following in the footsteps of American New Wave and French New and the French Wave, or the French New Wave. And yeah, I really believe that Film 3 is an aspiration. It is a better future for filmmakers. And while I don't see it as necessarily disrupting a dinosaur that is legacy Hollywood, I see it as an innovation. And I'm very, very proud to be building alongside so many really, really incredible people. Thanks so much.
So, I mean, as I said to you all before, we press record on the call. I kind of want this to be a really fluid conversation. So, although I kind of have you kind of pigeonholed with different areas that we might talk about with you, it'd be really great for you if you want to come in and speak about things. Just jump in. I'm not. I don't need to be on camera very much if I can help it. But I guess to start with, kind of with you, Jordan, given that you, as you said, this Film 3 originated with you, and I'm conscious that quite besides myself as someone who is new to the idea of Film 3, we may have a lot of audience members who are tuning in, who have come to a short film festival but aren't really aware of what Film 3 is. And obviously we want to go into all of the different ways in which it may change the film industry as we go through. But could you give us a basic, what the hell is Film 3? What are we talking about in the broadest possible strokes?
The broadest possible strokes is that it's an aspiration, that it is that it's a better future for filmmakers, one where we can have self-sovereignty, one where we can own our IP, one where we can prove prove that creator-led communities can be as powerful or more powerful than studios. For example, I mean, Miguel's here on the call and on the panel, and what he did was really extraordinary. He gathered a community of people, and we really believed in him. I mean, the squad got behind him and amplified him and supported him, and then he was able to find other people that believed in him. He had an incredible proof of concept short film, Calladita, that's on HBO, and he was able to gather a community of people that believed that in this storyteller. And I think the beautiful thing, besides just the financing, is that yes, Film 3 can, and this is a broad stroke, believe me, Film 3 can be financing. It can offer you a community that can buy your NFTs. It can also then be, they can then flex because they're a part of this thing. So they become your amplifiers. They're your marketing hub. And then when you put out your film, like Miguel is going to be doing soon, then they are your audience because they have skin in the game and they are super, super inspired by being a part of this. So, there are distribution models that are being built within this ecosystem that are Film 3, and that they are community led. There are, again, financing opportunities. You can do as a one-of-one, like I did with my short film Red Flags. It's a one-of-one piece of art, was collected and by Claire Silver, who's an icon in the Web3 world. So there's a broad sort of thing about what Film 3 can be and the mechanics that are Film 3, but I always bring it back to the community, that it's the community that, and it's creator-led communities like Miguel, like Julie Pacino, who also funded her feature film, like Luis, who was the director of Sherry's Never Alone project, who does incredible community things. So that's sort of a very, very broad stroke.
Could I add one thing to that, just as a thought as well? Sure. I think there's a broader, maybe even a broader perspective, which is this idea of shifting the balance of power. The entertainment industry has for a century basically controlled the economics of storytelling by being uniquely capable of marketing and distributing filmed entertainment. And as a result of that has allowed them to basically build a network of middlemen that makes it so that the industry makes money off of projects that lose money on paper. And that model is now really starting to falter in many, many ways. And I won't get into all of the ways it's faltering. But what I would say Film 3 is at the broadest, most philosophical level, its ethos is about shifting that balance of power from the networks, the marketing and distribution pipes, to the creators and the communities that they build. And that just by doing that shift, you eliminate the middlemen who take 95 cents of every dollar, because now the creators are empowered and able to create these communities who become not just their supporters, not just their viewers, but their amplifiers, taking those projects out into the world, creating real meaningful scale for these projects, which means that Film 3 at its heart values creators and their communities more than the pipes that deliver their work.
Yeah, so really good. Go on, Jenny. No, go for it.
Sorry. I was going to say, just to back up Stephen and Jordan's thoughts, the pain in this space is incredible. So back when we were building SitterCity.com, there was just enormous amounts of pain. And, in the tech world, we would use an analogy to talk about it: vitamins, aspirin, or morphine, right? So what's the level of pain? Is it vitamins? Is it morphine? So, moms were in desperate pain because they couldn't find a caregiver and their lives were falling apart, and sitters just needed money. This area has the same levels of pain going on, just like Stephen was saying. So we're seeing it in both sides of the two-sided marketplace. One being the streamers, first of all, now doing all their own content. Second of all, throwing creators off their own projects and playing cost of production plus 30%. That is essentially break even, and living with the axe of being canceled every minute over you is really uncomfortable. So, removing that gatekeeper is a wonderful thing. From the fan side, though, we're seeing so much pain as well. First of all, if you own an NFT, given the markets in FTX, you're desperate for that NFT to mean something. But then on top of that, fans don't want to be a set of eyeballs anymore. So, I think what Jordan identified years ago was so smart, the idea that this collaborative storytelling area was going to become big. I think it'll be steady state by 2025. I think the wall between fans and brands and creators will break. And I think we'll be at a new steady state where stuff is collaboratively built and brought direct to fan. I saw this before, right? 20 years ago. And, we became steady state. It seems inevitable to me. So I wonder what everyone else's thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting. I was actually just going to say that what's an interesting question, I suppose, coming off of what the three of you have now just said is what is the extent to which this is going to break through beyond a kind of Web3 community, and I guess a lot of the questions I have about how each of your individual areas will kind of change the film industry may speak specifically to that in terms of people at different stages of the process of making films. But that's a really interesting point about the idea that the connection to fans may be the thing that ultimately brings it beyond this community or this kind of set of communities and makes it something broader.
And I was going to actually speak to that just very briefly. The fact is, I came up in the music business. I started in the music business at the age of 19, and so I was a record company owner in New York at the time of the digital music revolution. And what happened was there was a shift in consumer behavior that basically meant the friction of the existing music business, having to go to a store, having to buy a physical product, having to take it home and to listen to, like, all of those things. That friction became replaced by digital discovery and consumption. And that took the entire marketplace out of the tiny little silo that was the record business. That exact same thing is happening again, but with filmed entertainment. Consumers think that going to the movie theaters, this is heartbreaking for us cinephiles and for us people who are passionate about movies and the experience of collectively viewing these movies on the big screen with massive sound. The fact is, the average consumer goes to the cinema less than 2 times a year now. And the reason why is because, frankly, it's a pain in the ass. It requires a lot of effort. It's expensive. You have to, it's very high friction. And then the alternative, the other side of it, is the streaming platforms, the subscription-based streaming platforms. Consumer behavior has shifted. Today's consumer, the data is really, really clear. Today's consumer wants immediate gratification. They want no commitment, and they want a level of access to the creators and the creative process that none of the existing platforms and systems will ever tolerate or even embrace. So again, that shift is playing right into the hands beautifully of creators and the communities they build. So that's actually, while we meet, some filmmakers meet that with frustration, it's actually a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I think that technology is one of the things that has driven this shift. So I was part of a bootstrapped effort, a VOD platform back in 2010. Netflix was still sending you 2 different bills. We were extremely early. Didn't know exactly what we were doing, but we knew we were on the right path. And the unfortunate thing that I had found out, we were about 5 years in, is when Netflix started coming on the scene and licensing renewals came up, and they went from a couple thousand to about 100,000 because Netflix was buying everything. It didn't make sense for us to keep on going, and we shut it down with the idea to put it on blockchain. But then I realized real quickly, blockchain isn't a business plan. And I still had the same issue of getting eyeballs to my platform and moving consumer habit, which costs millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to either get the CPMs you need on an ad supported or get the transactional that you need on the volume need for a transaction. And it was until the NFTs came along and it shift the paradigm, shift the power, as Steven said, and the numbers that you need as a creator to have a sustained career and profitable career have shifted dramatically. Whereas, you know, the pipes or the power, I think that's Steven mentioned it as, they don't have as much power because we don't need them as much. Yeah, sure, they're a nice adjunct, distribution medium to utilize, but in my view, it's secondary. After you've moved your community and became profitable within your community, and therefore your community is profitable. And then it's the technology of NFTs that have done that. It was a watershed moment that no longer required you to spend millions. You still have to market. You absolutely still have to market, but you no longer have to spend the dollars that you would have to get the necessary volume and eyeballs onto your project to make yourself, your project profitable and being able to have a career as an independent artist.
I'd love to jump in there just for a second. I love that Miguel's right in the middle of post-production and getting close, because he's an incredible case study that we're all watching, right? And he's right now a bit of a unicorn out there. Although David Bianchi is shooting Razor right now, which is a live action series. I think there's 8 pilot episodes, and we've got hidden ones. We've got tons of people out there in the space. A lot of eyes are on Miguel, and he's carrying a lot on his shoulders at the moment because of the market and the market conditions. But then you see what Sherry has done with Never Alone, and what Luis is doing with the Coders Room, and you see how building these communities, the importance of it. I still come back to the whole idea that community is the utility. Steven's always reminding me of that. Community is the utility, and it's what I wake up every morning with an incredible conviction of building and onboarding more people into Film 3. This is my passion at the moment, because I absolutely believe in this. But I would like to make some points to what AJ said, and they happen to be in music. Right now, a year ago, there's a musician, he's a Web3 musician, his name's Domino, and I'm working with him very closely, and he's a Rolling Stone NFT artist, and last year he put out an album. He's a completely unknown guy, and I've used this example many times. I have 2 examples for you guys in music. Domino dropped his album, Prescience, and he made $180,000. This is an unknown artist, but he had enough of a community to make $180,000. Well, $180,000 for an unknown artist, you would have to have 28 million streams on Spotify, which would never happen, right? So that is game-changing for his life. And he's now on his 2nd album, and I'm working with him on something on that, and it's super, super cool. And then you have a woman named Violeta. She's also a singer-songwriter. She has a very strong community of around 1,000 people. And the projection for her this year, as she keeps dropping her singles, again, an unknown on, like, say, the Spotify world, she's going to make $500,000 this year as an artist because of her fans, because of her audience, because of her community. See, these are interchangeable words. I use audience, but really, to me, they're just my people. They're my squad. Right. And the greater Film 3 community is our people. So we keep doing work, like we have partnered with Outer Edge, formerly NFTLA. Why are we doing their film track? Because we want to bring this whole movement, this whole idea beyond the filmmakers, beyond what we're doing. We've got to onboard more people. We've got to break out of the bubble. We've got to get beyond Film 3. We've got to be having conversations like this, right? Where we're also onboarding indie filmmakers or legacy filmmakers. And again, I'm going to swing back to what Miguel is doing. Right now, we're pointing to him as a case study and saying he's actually in post-production. And it'll be very, very interesting to see what Miguel chooses to do as he keeps moving forward into distribution and things like that.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Thanks, Jordan, for the shout out. So for anyone who doesn't know, Calladita, it's my first feature film, and it's all funded through NFTs. We raised around $800,000 through NFT sales of still frames of the original short film of Calladita, which we're now turning into a feature film. And in post-production, it's all funded through this NFT collection. Yeah, I think it's a great example of what the Film 3 revolution can be and can do. Cinema, because it's so expensive, is the most centralized art form in the world, where the decision about which films get to be made and which don't is left to a handful of corporations in the US and a handful of government committees here in Europe that decide where the funding is allocated and which films deserve to exist and which don't. This creates a very inefficient market where there are many incredible films that never get made, and there are also countless films that don't have an audience, and that is a big problem, and a lot of talent gets wasted. A lot of incredible filmmakers never get to tell their stories, and we as audiences miss out on watching those stories. Often the market also, prefers or sides more with things that it deems more commercial, even though the market is often very bad at calibrating that. And so a lot of the stories that we miss out on and that never get made are those that come from passionate storytellers and passionate artists who are dying to tell those stories and never get a chance to. So Film 3 can change that. And I think the key idea here is that we can change that not only by empowering filmmakers and empowering artists, but especially by empowering audiences, and through that, empowering filmmakers. So in the case of Calladita, we tried to make this movie with the traditional methods. We tried to fund it with public funding, which is the traditional way to fund an indie movie here in Europe. And we didn't manage. And we were left with the idea that either we had to wait years and years and keep trying, knocking on the same doors, which are very, very opaque decision makers, where you don't even know what you need to change in your project in order to get it next year. Or just, forget about this project and move on and try to make something else. So let's say the traditional market told me that this movie didn't deserve to exist, that it didn't have an audience, and that it didn't deserve to exist. But me being persistent and a bit crazy, I didn't agree with that. I thought, no, I don't agree. I think the movie deserves to exist, and I think there must be an audience there who agrees with me. And so I went to the internet, Web3, and found 500 plus degens, NFT collectors who agreed with me, who watched the original short film, liked it, thought that there was a feature here, wanted to watch it, and not only were they willing to pay a ticket to watch it, but they were willing to buy an NFT that was way more expensive than a movie ticket in order to support it and sort of invest in the future of this movie, in the fact that the movie got made. So now, not only have we proven the legacy system wrong in that the movie did have an audience, at least 500 people who were able to pay a lot more than a movie ticket to put their money where their mouth is. And now we'll see if the movie is, if the movie is not successful, then maybe they were kind of right, like the market didn't want this movie, but not really, because even before existing, it already had an audience. So in any case, they won't be right. But also, worst case scenario, the movie has no debt, right? And so it will be made. 500 people will be proud of having it made. They will like it, and they will all celebrate it. And that's a beautiful thing. And my biggest point is that Film 3 can break those inefficiencies in the market. This whole film landscape that is very bad at deciding which films get made and which don't.
And I'd just like to add the point, Miguel, you made about successful. The best part about Film 3 is who determines what a success is? It's not they, anymore. It's the community. So if you're releasing it with a community, okay, what is the end goal? Some might be profit, some might be impact, some might be a movement or a message or awareness. So that level of success is determined, by the goal of the community and the filmmaker together. No longer is it strictly a profit margin. Look, we always want to make, if we can, make some money on the movie, that's great. But at what expense? And, in the traditional system, that expense is usually profit to everybody else, creator stuck with all the expense. So I just love that you pointed that out, because again, now it's up to the fans and it's up to the creator together. And no longer do you have to wait for somebody else to say yes. And the creator says, the fan to tell them, yes, we want to see this. Okay, if they want to see it and nobody else does, it's still a success because they're the ones who funded it and wanted it to get made. And it's just a beautiful system, and it doesn't rely on outside folks.
Yeah, and honestly, one metric that I always found very interesting to determine the success of an indie film is, as a filmmaker, can I make my next one? So, if I get to make the next one, then the first one was already successful. And in that respect, I think that we built such an amazing community of fans and supporters of Calladita who are super happy to have supported it and will be happy to continue to support my future projects. And so I am not very worried about whether I'm going to be able to make the next one.
Yeah, it's almost like you can get away from the adage of what is it? Sign your next one before the first one comes out. It allows you to get away from that a bit. And again, we're just rely on the success of the community.
Does anyone mind if I ask a question about NFT? So I just came back from NFT Paris, and we were on the ground there, like talking to everyone. And Paris, of course, is full of artists. So I'd say like 40% of who showed up at NFT Paris were all artists. And they are obviously talking nonstop about the Blur OpenSea kind of situation, which is really interesting. We're actually speaking at ETH Denver on Friday about rights and royalties and IP, and then right after that, we have a panel at South by with Lonnie Mahanta from OpenSea. So we've been tracking this really carefully. I'd love to know what everyone's thoughts are about NFTs in secondary markets, particularly the fact that, some platforms are now honoring a secondary royalty and some aren't. I'll tell you where we are in entertainment. We actually think NFTs are tickets. They bring access, and they were not necessarily meant just to exist to have a secondary market. That's where we stand. We also see incredible value in them, which we'll talk about at ETH Denver on Friday, in the idea of rights and royalty transfer, mostly more I'd say rights than royalties. Can we, break through the SEC debacle going on right now and find ways to assign rights to characters within a metaverse or a creation? That to us seems like the holy grail here when you look at IP marketplaces and where everyone's going, from 2D to 3D. Could I throw that out there and hear everyone's thoughts on that?
I think it's, I'm just going to jump in for a second. I think that it's very Web 2 to build off the backs of creators and then make them a promise of secondary royalties for the creators and then take them away. You built all of OpenSea was built off of that. So I think that it's a bad move. I think that NFTs, digital assets, tokens, whatever you want to call them, are far beyond actually what we know how we're going to be using them in the future. I think they are incredibly utilitarian, and I love trying to find new utility for them. But ultimately, as far as IP goes and royalties, I think it's a really bad move. I think it's a move for the flippers. And once again, I'm sorry, I was getting ready to use my colloquial word. I think that it screws the creators over again. And this is not a better future. This is not a better future for creators and artists.
Regarding I agree with Jordan about that, but regarding your second part of your comment, Genevieve, it's true that it's very tricky, the whole SEC securities thing, and I think maybe I should explain this a bit for our audience. In an example like Kayadita, where we fundraise the whole budget of the movie selling NFTs, the way it works is quite similar to a Kickstarter, where all of the money that we get from our NFT buyers are basically donations, and they get no rights on the back end or the revenues of the movie. We are currently not allowed to offer that, even if we wanted, because then we would be selling a security, essentially. We would be selling an investment opportunity out in the open without registering with any body, and so that's illegal. Right now, it seems hard to come up with a solution for that. But Genevieve was pointing out to something a bit different, which is can we allow people to have royalties and ownership of certain aspects of the movie, right? If they invest in it, and I think one way that I've talked to a lot of lawyers about this, and I've tried to figure it out, because I think I agree with Genevieve that part of this is the holy grail of this whole conversation. If we can manage to have a better relationship with our investors in film 3, then there's no limits to how far this can go. And I think one way that could potentially happen, Genevieve, is if you, of course, you have to KYC everyone, but if someone invests in the movie via an NFT, then they are KYC, and then you can argue that they are having a material creative input into the movie. Then you can give them IP and royalties because you're not giving them as a passive income from an investment. You're buying their IP contribution with points in the movie, which is a very classical thing that has always been done in Hollywood. So after talking to many lawyers, that's kind of one solution that I found possible.
One other thing that I would.
Thank you.
Sorry, Sherry. I wanted to make sure Sherry had a chance to chime in, but I'm going to add one thing real quick. The interesting dynamic that exists right now as it relates specifically to financing. I think there's a tendency to sort of see NFTs and or digital assets or DeFi as sort of a panacea for solving all the problems for financing of premium entertainment projects. I understand the motivation to do that, to get the audience to become actually actively involved in the financing and the creation of projects, that will definitely be one of the things that happens. But I actually think there's an incredible opportunity from all the conversation I'm having, in the entertainment industry. There is literally billions of dollars of dry powder sitting on the sidelines that is looking for a new way. They're looking for something that they can jump on. We use the metaphor of a wave on purpose, that the entertainment industry in general, but also the financiers of entertainment projects, which, by the way, are not necessarily the studios anymore. It's these big collections, these big funds that are out there. There's a saying that I use. They are settlers, not pioneers. They're waiting for a wave to build because they don't create momentum. They ride it. They want to see something working. They want to see a movement happening, and that will give them the incentive to want to jump in and start financing projects that originate in this way. Which is why what Miguel has done. Which, by the way, he didn't just raise money to make a movie. He made a great movie. Those of us who've been lucky enough to see it know that we can be very proud of that he did an incredible piece of art that people are going to point to and say, that was incredible. So that's all exciting. That's one proof point. The next proof point is, does the community come around and amplify that and make that project financially successful? Because while what AJ, you were saying, profit may not always be the only motivation, it is always the only motivation of traditional financiers. And if we are going to bring actual serious amounts of money into this space where films can be financed, produced, marketed, and sold as Film 3 community-driven projects. We need to be out there proving those points. But if we do, I truly believe, and we're already starting to see it in little bits, I believe the money will come into this space.
As far as NFTs go,
sorry, go on.
I think that, community is the utility, just like Jordan has been saying. I don't want to see our NFTs on secondary markets, actually. I think we're showing the value and baking in these utilities that are going to have people wanting to hold on to that NFT for the lifetime. Because they believe in the project, they want to be part of that community, they want to add to that community, and they certainly don't want to go away. So I understand the royalty piece. I think that totally, is screwed up with OpenSea, and it affects a lot of people, especially, artists such as photographers and painters and NFT artists. But as far as filmmaking, I think we're in it for the long run, and I want people to stay with us and keep our NFT forever.
Oh my God, I just have to say, I'm so glad you brought that up because, we dropped a squad member pass, a utility token 18 months after we started building, right? And literally the squad member pass, it just cracks me up. I'm sorry, but I have to say it. It is there's 0.6 listed of the 300 that exist, 0.6 listed, and our floor is 100 ETH. And then the next is 1,000 ETH. And that, yeah, I know, Miguel, it's hilarious. And I love it. But that's the whole point, diamond handed, because they know that the squad's motto is under promise, over deliver. We don't promise things that we do not know 100% that we can deliver. And that's why they've diamond handed this. And so it's always a fun thing to point out, even though we're not quite a punk yet or a Bored Ape. We do have an incredible floor.
And if I could, I tried to jump in a couple of times, but didn't want to talk over others. But as far as the studios and the streamers that are looking at buying our films, I'm out there pitching a lot. And the first thing they're going to ask, right, is who's attached? What names do I recognize? That's always the big thing. That's what sells it. But also, how many followers does that actor have? How many followers does the director have? It's all kind of built up on show me how many likes that you have, how many followers. Well, now we're going to show we have communities. We have a built-in audience for this show or this film already. And to me, I think that's going to be the big win, because that's what they want. They want that built-in audience. And we are building those audiences, people that love our films and want to stay part of the project.
And the best part about that is, and Stephen mentioned this, the studios aren't funding anything. They're not funding anything except for remakes and tentpoles. That's why you have Lord of the Rings series at Amazon and Warner Brothers rebooting it now. And thankfully, I believe they're working, cohesively, but it's going to end up a mess. And now you're going to have two different universes. But they don't fund anything. They market and they distribute. And so to say, now you can show them that we have this, I even push it forward further. You say, hey, look, we have this and we don't need you. And it's an interesting place to be. And it's almost akin to, so I've been involved with several funds and invested myself in film and produced. And the whole reason I got into distribution is because I've seen the horrible ways films that were treated, including myself, by distributors. So we, similar to the ethos of Film 3, built our own pathway and built our own way. And they just the idea of not having to worry about what's your minimum guarantee or how much they're going to deduct from your expenses and how much they're going to put up as a marketing cost, and it's just a wonderful thing to go back to. And I kin it almost to the back like early 2000s, where pre-sales still existed, and if you had your pre-sales, you had your tax and your whole cap stack, you really didn't need that whole much of equity, and then you went with them with P&A dollars, you actually had a standing chance of having a good negotiation, a good deal. I akin that a bit to that because now you're coming to them, you already have the audience, you already have the community, you already financed yourself, and now you say, hey, may I rent your pipes? And I'm going to steal your line all the time, Stephen, because I love it. But may I rent that? And, no, I don't want to take that deal. I don't need that deal, but I'll pay you that. And we've talked to some of these folks, and they're actually interested in that model because they know the power has shifted when you come to them with not your hand open, but you come to them, here's the deal I'm willing to offer you, vice versa.
Something I'm beginning to realize, just that was a really great point, AJ and Stephen. I think we're building out the middle. So back when we created Sitter City back in 2001, what was going on was that, if you wanted to find a sitter, you could either fly to a college campus on foot, alone and pregnant, or you could use a nanny agency, which was $2,000. And there was this massive white space in the middle. So we built this Match.com for parents and caregivers that was $40. And it was, you just went on, you could see her references, you could see her background checks, but it was like safer. We made it safer to go online than to hire the girl next door. I think we're doing the same thing here. Nobody built a middle, and we're building the middle. So to Stephen's point, when creators come through, entertainment or bingeable, like what we're seeing is that we're wrapping around them and we're helping them with development grants, and then we're helping them sell tickets, Kickstarter style, but they're gathering followers. They're gathering like at varying levels, like this stack behind them. And, we are a fan collectible right now. Who knows if we'll do Reg CF in the future, but like right now we can offer that and it's working. So I think maybe what we're doing to empower the creator is more handing them a series of stats and data that they can then, like they can walk in and dump on Netflix's desk. Hey, look at me. I've got 3,000 followers. I've raised 80,000. I've got this pilot. I've just raised another 400,000 for the series. You better not jerk me around. That to us is, I just see the same opening. That to us is maybe the power here. And when I say steady state in 2025, what I mean is I think 80% of this industry, like the middle, was never charted. And so if we can chart the middle, if we can give a pathway, a bridge, right, to the streamers, like we become steady state by default because there's so much that's unserved right now. I just want to throw that out and see if anyone else is in the same mindset.
I was going to say, looping into all of that, the idea, why does Hollywood, basically source most of their projects from existing IP, comic books and video games? It's very simple. There's an existing audience. They don't have to make something wondering whether or not there's an audience for it. It's already there. And I actually talked about this not too long ago. I actually think that shows their biggest vulnerability. Their biggest vulnerability is that the power actually rests with the audience, not with the platform that delivers the work. The audience has the power. And that audience, their consumer behavior is shifting away from these streamers and from these subscription-based models. They do not want to pay for something they don't want. They are going in. In fact, the data is incredible. We have some of this data in some of our materials where we talk about the fact that the average consumer under the age of 40 says about it's somewhere around 70 to 80% of them say that they dip in and dip out of these subscription services based on what they want to watch. A new episode of a new season of Stranger Things comes out and they go to Netflix and then they cancel and then they go to Apple and then they go to Disney. That is essentially transactional VOD. That is the consumer behavior shift that is absolutely transformative to the industry. But getting the traditional industry to adopt and embrace those changes, I always use the metaphor of it's like trying to get a 747 to change its engine mid-flight, right? It's so hard for them to shift and pivot to that consumer behavior. It is entirely possible that just like in the music industry, a whole new generation of platforms are going to pop up that recognize this consumer behavior, recognize they want immediate gratification, they want no commitment, and they want access that they can't get elsewhere. The platforms that serve that consumer behavior in the future will be the ones that win, because they recognize it's the audience that has the power, not those who deliver.
Yeah, they're not listening to the audience right now because they're killing off characters that people care about. They're canceling shows that people love. They're not representing people the way that they want to be represented in the LGBTQ community, which I'm part of. And there's so many cases like this. And with us coming in with Film 3, listening to our audiences, letting them be involved in our characters and our stories. That's where we're going right now, because right now the model just isn't working and we're losing viewers. And you're seeing that across all these different streamers.
And a lot of those decisions from a cancellation standpoint have nothing to do with the success or the quality of the film. A lot of it has to do with the escalators built into the SAG contracts. So then you get to year 2, and that was the brilliance with True Detective, and they did that because they knew they had something, but they didn't want to get priced out of market. So by year 2, they had a whole new cast because they reset the escalator. But that's, you look at Arrested Development, God's honest, one of the funniest shows ever made, and it just keeps getting canceled. And the fans keep demanding it comes back. So I can't imagine. I can't wait to see where it lands. It's going to land somewhere, but it's a good use case of a A-list studio-funded project that keeps getting canceled, but the fans keep going, wait. We want to still watch it. I know it was 10 years ago when the last episode was made, but we still want it. And it's exactly to your point. And I think we're there. I think, again, Miguel's picture is going to be a great use case. And I think beyond that, it's going to take 1 or 2 really good crossovers that, whether it's financed or at least surrounded by community. Again, the NFT raise could be community or it could be financing driven. There's a couple different pictures that we're talking to that are fully financed, but they want to have the community engagement before they go out to distribution, whether it is traditional or if it's a Web3 type strategy. But I think you need to have a few that break over, and then to Stephen's point, you'll start seeing eyeballs from the studios looking and going, okay, it is working. Maybe we'll dabble. It's going to take years. I heard somebody on a space talking about can't wait till the distributors will agree to a smart contract. And I was laughing on the other side of my PFP, only because I know currently, my best distribution partners pay me every 90 days. Once I have a few different projects on there and I start getting ahead of the schedule, I get one, every month, but that's because you build it up for 2 years. And, the idea that they're going to move to a smart contract, it's going to take a while. I would love it if they would, because it gets away with, all the transparent issues, but it's going to take forever. I think we've met, they've taken some good steps, with collection accounts and what have you to give more transparency, but it's still not there. There's still ways to manipulate it, especially when it's on the studio side and add costs. But we're close, I think, on our end. Collectively, us getting one to break through, and we get a couple, and then I think like you guys keep saying, it'll start that wave really come crashing down.
I hate to offer a more pessimistic view, AJ, but I think that if history has shown us anything, it's that the entertainment industry in general, but specifically the film business, they make so much money off of what they hide that opacity in accounting is actually a feature, not a bug. It is designed to keep from having to share those revenues with creators, and it's sort of a known. Everybody knows it, but it's also, until right now, it's still the only game in town. it's still, if you want to have something have mass reach and have the opportunity to have meaningful success, you still have to play in that pond. I don't know that it is fixable. I think certain movies are going to work in that model, and projects will work in that model, and they should continue doing it. But there needs to be, as Genevieve said, and it's something that we talk about all the time, a middle lane, a third lane. We've got theatrical, you've got subscription-based. There needs to be another option. And what that means is we need to recognize that the studio system, the streamers, the distributors, they work the way they work for a reason, and getting them to change may be impossible. So therefore, we have to replace them. We have to replace them with models and systems that embrace this ethos of saying that creator-led communities can be as powerful as the studios, that the pipes are worth less than the creators and their community. That we have the opportunity to do that. It is a wide open, as they say in the VC world, it's a rift. It's there's a wedge that isn't being serviced. But look at what just recently, who was it, BlackRock and TPG and Bain. There was an article about how they are investing billions of dollars into physical production studios. And the article specifically spoke to this very important data point, which was that the streaming model, the subscription-based streaming model may be in trouble. And you're seeing all of these companies, because of that consumer behavior I talked about earlier, you're seeing all of them losing subscribers at a massive level. It's starting to look more like cable TV than it does the future, right? It really is getting kind of ugly out there. Bain and TPG and BlackRock are saying, however, the consumer data is very clear. The demand for new premium entertainment content is higher than it has ever been. The consumers, the fans want more stuff. They just want the stuff that they want, and they don't want a bunch of other stuff that they don't to be part of the package. So that is, such a huge opportunity to thread that needle, to find that middle lane. Couldn't be more excited about everybody who's in this room building for that, because we're the ones who are going to really be what everybody's talking about in a year from now.
Just like Genevieve, I'm sorry. That it's like .com, which I was a big part of back in my IT days. It really just feels like that. It's not going to happen overnight. And there's going to be a lot of things that are tried and fail. But by sticking together and being this community, I think, we can push these new ideas forward. And we're starting to do that already. And look, you have a Film 3 festival. It just goes to show we're making headway. It's not a race, it's a marathon. And I think we're on the right track to do it.
Yeah, I'm thrilled by how collaborative everyone is. Thanks to Jordan, we have a festival. We have a very cool symmetry that I'm seeing between a lot of the different plays, but we're all attacking in different ways. Like at NFT Paris, I met Orange Comet. They were terrific. Like I just kind of went up after they spoke and was like, oh, look, we're approaching it this way. And he was like, let's go hang. We just sat for 20 minutes, and then Warner Brothers dropped in because they were on the panel. And it's nice, I think back when we were fighting in Web 2, we went ahead, we launched a model, and then 6 years later, like two other copies of us appeared in different colors, right? It's like, this is different. It's really neat because I feel like the opportunity is so big, there's room for lots of us, but it's almost like a collective movement, We are a movement. We're a movement putting power back in the hands of the creators. So I'm very excited, to talk to anyone here I haven't spoken to yet. Stephen, I'd love to hang, more after this. I think it's going to take all of us pushing for possibly years, right? But we will get there. And like you said, Stephen, called a wedge, white space. It's so big. It's just so big. And it was never filled. So, there's room. There's a lot of room for everyone. And we should be talking nonstop, about how to push it through.
Absolutely. One of the things I'd like to say that I've gotten really an honor to be able to be witness to is, we have done well over 300 shows with the squad on Twitter Spaces. 300 shows means we have either had some topic about Film 3 and the ethos and what we're all trying, the better future of film, or we've spotlighted all of these different projects. And I've had the great honor to be able to witness all these unique ways that people are attacking the problem or creating innovation, and whether it is with the financing or an NFT strategy or distribution models and things like that. But I want to take a moment because, as a filmmaker, I love talking about all this technical sort of businessy stuff, but what I really want to do right now is speak to the filmmakers who are in the audience. Those people like me who have been artists and have had a hard time wrapping their heads around business and want to know, how does this work for them? How do we onboard you? How do we, I'm going to be honest, it's not a frictionless experience at the moment, right? There are some challenges but for like someone like you, Ben, who wants to know what this is, I say the closest thing that we can look at is what Christine Vachon did with Killer Films and Ted Hope with Good Machine, and a lot of these people that created what we now know as legendary Sundance, the Sundance movement, the independent film movement. They were filmmakers that were faced with gatekeepers that found a new way. They found a new way to make films. They had stories that they wanted to tell, and they were small stories. They were intimate stories. They were stories, like Miguel said earlier, that there are so many talented people out there. And so I speak to you, to those of you who are filmmakers. This is an incredible way to build from the ground up. Sundance is not Sundance. They didn't arrive on the scene as Sundance. They arrived on the scene as a bunch of filmmakers who came together and said, there's got to be a better way. And you know what? We're just going to make our films and have our voices heard. And then somebody said, let's have a festival. And those films got to be seen. And then guess what? To Stephen's point, the studios went, oh, wait, we can make money. Let's call ourselves independent filmmakers. And then they created little independent film arms. And then they brought in celebrities, and they took the budgets from tiny to huge in order to be able to pay those salaries. But the point is, things got more exposure. More filmmakers got opportunities. I always love to point to what the opportunity that was given to Ava DuVernay when she won in 2010, and then how she was able to take that and create opportunity for more people and more marginalized communities and the underrepresented. As Sherry spoke about being a part of the LGBTQIA community, or whether you're Black or Asian or Indigenous, the beautiful thing about Film 3 and about finding your community, you're not creating them, they are finding you. And they exist. And Ava proved that with Selma. She proved that with Queen Sugar. When, Tyler Perry has proved it as well. These are case studies that said, we have an audience, and you cannot tell me that there is not an audience. So I say to the filmmaker out there, if you want to be a part of Film 3, or you want to just explore it, the squad is always there for you. We throw down the alpha 4 times a week. I do one of the shows. Stephen does another. Miguel used to do a show for us. We also have a bilingual show for inclusion of Spanish speaking. And I'm not here to shill the show so much as to basically say that when I started the squad over 2 years ago, it was to build a better future for filmmakers like myself and like Miguel and like Sherry and like Stephen, who is also a filmmaker who's been doing business for so long, but has some films in his heart that he wants to tell. We do this because our audiences do exist, and they just need to find us, right? And then they will want to see you tell your story, because representation matters to them, and seeing themselves in those stories matter to them. And then honestly, we impact the world culturally on a global scale, because we're no longer just seeing the world through one purview. We're seeing the world through many different individual voices. So I encourage you guys to reach out. If you're a filmmaker on the other side here and listening to this, even if you don't understand the distribution thing, Did I understand it really? No. But I know that there's a story or two I want to tell, and I'm going to be able to tell them because there are people that believe that my creator-led community and my voice, and I mean me being you, the filmmaker, is important, and they want those stories out there, and they will be there for you as a community. We've already proven that. So thank you guys so much for giving me an opportunity to come here. I'm so honored and continually blown away that Film 3 is a global movement, and I truly believe the next wave of cinema.
And I will add to that, something I've had on my whiteboard for now 6 years, this mission statement that I have been chasing for a long time, is something that I hope is something that this community embraces. And it is ideological, but I don't think it's naive. I think it's actually what drives a lot of the opportunity here, by empowering marginalized voices, by removing gatekeepers, by allowing audiences to determine what they want, not gatekeepers, not delivery systems. That whole transition, that whole shift, I think will make the world better for creators. My mission statement is that if you change the world for creators, creators can change the world. And I know that's touchy-feely, but it's really, really true. It is actually storytellers and artists that have driven culture, have driven politics, that have driven, storytellers have both propped up and torn down tyrants. They have, there's unbelievable power in the ability to tell stories. And if we unlock that in a way that actually brings the best storytellers in and allows audiences to connect with those storytellers, then we really, truly can change things.
Well, we're creators too, actually, at Entertainment. I did run the series on Amazon Prime, and Mark and AJ have done a lot of movies and TV. I was talking at Catalyst Festival earlier, with a bunch of creators. I don't think there's a better world out there unless, to Jordan's point, we build it. Nobody cares about this as much as we do. Nobody. We're so tired of getting screwed. I remember my show was about helping women win political races. So in our pilot, which you can see on Amazon Prime, we helped Bushra Amawala. She became the youngest ever Pakistani female, woman to run for office and win. We actually shoved her over the line. It was like Queer Eye. We had 5 female trainers. And we ended up in the offices of Lifetime, where they said, oh, this is great, but we think it'd be better if you had strippers running for office. They literally said that to me. And at that point, I thought, the people making the decisions for what we watch are morons. And I think that we can apply some disruptive tech to this. So, I mean, I do think we're all united here in the creation aspect, but again, it's also no one will ever care as much as we do about this, about fixing it. It's awful.
Yeah, and it's again, caring, and going back to the idea of addressing the filmmakers in the room, nobody cares about your story as much as you do. And, what needs to be done, I will shill. Go check out the spaces that Jordan and the squad puts on. Check out the spaces that Entertainment, check out anything you need to learn, because with great power becomes great responsibility. All of a sudden, the onus is on you, the filmmaker, to take control of your product. The great thing about getting rid of the middlemen is they don't take away the pie anymore, but it's also now your responsibility. So with that is education, and hop into all those spaces, hop into anything, read a book on distribution, whether it's a bad distribution plan or not. You should learn what has happened in the past so you can learn what you'd like to do in the future. The onus is now on you. I mean, this technology is empowering, but there's nobody to fall back on, which is a good thing. It's your story. You want it to be made. You've built the audience. The audience has found you, your fans, your creators. You have a massive community. Work together. It's now on you guys as a whole to tell the story and bring it to the world, and no longer incumbent on the middlemen and the studios to let it get out there.
Excellent. I think looking at the time, I will have to draw it to a close, but I think that's a really great place to leave things. I think, the last few comments that we've had from all of you the future is bright, and it's really nice to think of this group of people as the filmmakers who are thinking about Sundance, and the idea that if Alpha is still here in however many years' time, that there will be that Sundance that we can refer to and look back at this conversation, as one of those places where we're helping to bring you together. And hopefully the people that are watching, the filmmakers, potentially industry professionals, are watching, are hearing you talking, are thinking more about these things. And also the community. That's the other thing that I love the idea of, is that there may be some people who go from this conversation and go and find a project to back. They become part of the group that want to see, Miguel's next film or whatever it happens to be. And as you say, we enable you to connect filmmakers with their communities through this space. So it just behooves me to say thank you to all of you. It's been a really fascinating conversation. It's been great to hear about all the different sides of this. So thank you to Miguel, Stephen, Genevieve, AJ, Sherry, Jordan. For those of you watching, we have a shorts program coming up after this, so please do continue watching to see Present is Prologue. But for now, I will say thanks everyone and goodbye.